Romans 1:18 tells us that the wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against the ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. This is the second in a series of God words, terms, vocabulary that it's important for us to understand as we consider what it means that God has called us into fellowship with Himself. The first word that we looked at was the word wrath. It's not a word that we use very often in our vocabulary. We're more likely to use the word anger. And yet the word that the Apostle Paul used in his letter to the Romans, that we translate wrath, is not just an outburst of anger, but it is a consideration at a great evil and the reaction against that. Just as we are angry when evil happens around us. In my work as a chaplain with the Sheriff's Department, I've been in a number of homes where a thief has come in and ransacked the home, pulled out every drawer in every chest of bureau, every kitchen cabinet opened, emptied, and the homeowner righteously angry because an injustice has been done, because they've been violated. Any crime that is committed against us certainly can result in a justified anger. And so the word wrath is that. And it's God's justified anger, God's wrath, and it is against, and we have two terms, the ungodliness and the unrighteousness of men. So today we're going to look at this word ungodliness. It looks like it would be easy to understand. In English, the root is God, and the prefix un tells us that it's not like God. And that is really the sense of the word, and yet that's not what might be a best translation of the word that the Apostle Paul actually used, that we translate ungodly. So the word that he used begins with the Greek letter that we would translate A, and we have many words in the English language that use an A at the beginning of the word to make the word negative. For example, in our current environment around us, we might use the word asymptomatic. So somebody who is symptomatic would show certain signs, for example, of a disease. Coughing, or a dry cough in this particular case, shortness of breath, a fever, those would be symptoms. So somebody who is asymptomatic does not have those symptoms. Or we might, for example, use the word asymmetry. Symmetry is when everything is in balance, the same on both sides. Asymmetry is out of balance. It may be intentionally so, and yet it's not the same on both sides. So we have inherited from the Greek language this prefix a or a to indicate the opposite of or the negative of a statement. And this is the word that Paul uses. It's a word that is a negative for another word. And so the root in the word that Paul uses actually means to worship or to reverence or to adore. So it's not specifically God, as in our word ungodly, which is a negative of God, but it really is about worship and about paying reverence to, adoring, that is, honoring something because it is its nature to be honored. It is honoring something because it is honorable, or worshiping. And so we might think about what is worship and what do we worship? What do we pay allegiance to? And in this setting, if God is the one that's angry, then what the word is saying to us is that He is angry about a lack of reverence, but more strongly stated, it's a failure to honor that which is sacred. And that's what's really carried in this. If the root is to worship, then the in front of that root is to dishonor, to not worship. But it's more than just not worship, because there are many things that we don't worship. But it's the negative of that. And so it's to lack reverence, or to not give the proper respect that is due something, to fail to honor what is sacred. And so if we look at the direct definition of the term that is used specifically, we could say that it is a lack of respect. And more so, that it is the show of a bold irreverence. So it's not just that we are not respecting God that causes him to reveal his wrath, but that we are indeed boldly irreverent. That this is an act of the will on our part to disregard who God is, and to act in bold irreverence, to refuse to give honor where honor is due. Now this word, if we look at how it's been translated, ungodly is one of the translations. Another translation is impiety. So piety is proper respect of that which is divine, or proper respect of God. Another translation, maybe a little more loose translation, is sometimes this word is translated as wickedness. But I think that when we look at the core of the word, what we are seeing here is a deliberate and specific refusal to honor that which is honorable. It is bold irreverence, which is a choice that we make. It is a deliberate and specific action against God. It is not just not worshiping him, but it is irreverence toward him. It is saying that he is in effect not worthy of worship, not worthy of reverence, not worthy of honor, not worthy of adoration. So this is the beginning of what God's wrath is revealed against. That we have made a deliberate decision to be disrespectful to him. It might not sound like a big deal, but I think that any of us who are in a position where our position demands respect, we are right to be upset when it is not the case. Now, that does not mean that as a parent or as a teacher or as a pastor that I should act in such a way that would cause people to disrespect me. I suppose in that sense I don't really even care. But there is an office, the parent office, and children ought to respect their parents. That's one of the commandments. The teacher's office, that if the students are not respectful of the teacher, of the authority that the teacher represents, then there's chaos in the classroom. And so what we see as a result, if we are deliberately irreverent, if we are deliberately disrespectful of our Creator, then the outcome is chaos. And so that is what brings about God's wrath. Now, as we progress through our vocabulary lessons, we might say, we're going to see that we are incapable of solving this problem. We are incapable of worshiping. We are incapable of being reverent. We are incapable of adoring until God comes to us and acts on our behalf. And so we'll see a number of other terms as we walk our way through the letter to the Romans, looking at the words that we need to understand about God and his call to fellowship with him. Thank you for being a part of this conversation with me. If you have comments, leave them in the comment section below. I'm interested in carrying on a continued conversation about these words that are important for us to know and understand as we consider what it is that God has done for us as he invites us into fellowship with himself. And God bless you.